please, please, please save, and Warren Buffett will tell you the same thing. Live under your means and put that money away, because time is wonderful for you.
Welcome to Living Not So Fabulously.
So, David,
Yes.
I bet you there is still something about me that you don't know.
Oh, really? What's that?
I didn't play basketball in high school or college.
Oh, at 5'4", I can't imagine why not.
5'4" 3/4, please.
Today's guest did, though, quite well, in fact. From slam dunks to stock tips, Vicki Hall is a former WNBA star and championship-winning coach who's helping folks win at the game of money. After a globe-trotting pro basketball career and breaking barriers in coaching, she pivoted to become a trusted financial advisor in Indianapolis.
Whether she's on the court or in a client meeting, Vicki brings hustle, heart, and a whole lot of financial wisdom. Welcome to the show, Vicki Hall.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. What a pleasure to be here. Awesome.
We're excited to have you. So after a successful career as a WNBA star and as a coach, you sort of shifted to a whole nother career as a financial advisor. It seems like a pretty big leap. What was your thought process there, and how was the transition?
Oh, definitely. When I do seminars, people, on financial education, they're wondering, where's this basketball lady? What? And so basically what had happened, it was kind of a sad story, though, actually. In high school, my father passed away early, and he didn't share anything about the finances with my mom. And so she kind of had to take over the reins and do everything. And she went to a trusted advisor, and he sold her an annuity or two to a 46-year-old woman with 2 kids going into college, which is suitable, but it's not really good at all. And so at that point in time, we understood, oh my gosh, we got to figure some stuff out. And so I actually, at that point, I ended up when I finished, I ended up going to Europe and studying on my own and doing some different things, and started to trade and invest and learned a lot about the investments. And so that's kind of what I've done, kind of parallel to basketball my entire life.
Oh, interesting. So that was your first touch of personal finance. And so what attracted you to become an actual financial advisor and make that a career as opposed to having it sort of be a hobby?
Because I think there are just so many people that don't know. You don't know what you don't know. They don't know how to invest. They don't know what it's about. They're afraid because it's your hard-earned money, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what a Roth means, or what an IRA means, or what's an ETF, And so to be able to go out and help and educate people, I just, coming from being a coach and trying to help young women, be great leaders and, and succeed in life, I thought it would be a good transition to try to educate people just in finance to help them in their lives.
Wonderful.
It's kind of interesting in the today, a lot of folks have they have parallel careers, right? Oftentimes we see people who are working down one path, and then something else comes along. Either they want to be an entrepreneur, or they want a side hustle. They want to have multiple careers. Sometimes, unfortunately, many people need this. You actually found an interest in it and found a desire to have both of those. I do find it very interesting how you said there's a lot of overlap. Not a lot of people think about that, about how much overlap that they may have between optional careers in their life.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's funny because I went from coaching, I was the associate head coach and the head coach, and then I went into the WNBA as a coach, and I didn't make a whole lot of money. It was a pretty big pay cut, actually. And so I was like, oh, geez, I don't like this. Not so fabulous, right? And so I said, how else could I make some money? So I don't recommend this unless you know what you're doing. I did some day trading, and also, worked with some options, and so made some extra money that way.
It's very interesting that you bring that up because Brittany Griner mentioned in her memoir, Coming Home, that part of the reason why she was in Russia was because the WNBA just didn't pay her enough to be able to support her and her family. And I think there's this misconception that at least from those outside looking in, that athletes in sort of the big three sports like baseball, basketball, and football, men and women, are doing pretty well. How accurate is that? And is there a discrepancy between what the men are earning versus what the women are earning?
It's not even, it's apples and oranges. I mean,
Uh,
especially back when I was playing too, because I was one of the first ones. I'm not a young chicken, if you can tell from my white hair there. Um, but but yes, when I started, I think I was getting paid like, I don't know, like $50,000 for, it was for 3 or 4 months. But it was about 3 or 4 times that in Europe for me.
mm,
And so,
wow.
it was worth it to stay in Europe. And so before the WNBA, there was actually the ABL, which was a better salary, to start with. So, yeah, I mean, even now, coming back around to these days now, Caitlin Clark has kind of changed, um the expectation, thankfully, and, we're all thankful for that for women, but it's still very far away. Like, I think her base salary is probably like 80,000 dollars, and a rookie, base salary for the men is, I think, 350,000.
Wow.
Oh, I'm sorry. So you're saying that sh- Caitlin Clark is getting at about $80,000, but a rookie pro men's basketball player is six figures, multiple?
It's 6 figures. Yeah, and don't quote me on the 350. I'm not exactly sure. You can Google that and find out. But there are like tiers, and so it's a definite disparity for sure.
So I'm curious. I can hear the response from some commenters saying, "Well, the men just attract more more viewers, right? They have more people watching on TV. They have more people attending their games." What's your argument to that?
Well, that was true for a while, but now, because okay, so they had the big deal, that happened during COVID, where, the women didn't get the same as the men and all this other stuff, and then but somehow they figured out the viewership, and all of a sudden they, started to understand that women had great viewership as well. Huh,
Mhm.
how
Yeah.
about that? And so now their TV rights and different things started happening for women, so now they're making a little bit more, and they all call it the Caitlin Clark effect. Indiana, when I was coaching with Indiana, we couldn't give a ticket away.
So,
And now like their first game was sold out, 17,000. So it's
Wow.
wow.
just kind of changed, where changed the perspective completely.
Yeah. Interesting.
It's almost I don't know if this is the Caitlin Clark effect actually made this happen, but it almost seems like this whole chicken and egg. Well, there's no viewership, so there's no ticket sales, but there's no ticket sales because there's no viewership because people don't know that there are great games happening. You actually have to be plugged into the sport or plugged into the community to know that it's happening.
Absolutely.
Well, so as a trailblazer looking back, seeing what's happening to women's basketball, but I see more and more women's sports in general. How does that feel?
I'm happy for the younger, generation that they're actually getting these opportunities that we didn't. We paved the path for them, and there was those before me that helped pave it for me as well, but, it's gotta happen somewhere, and so, if they were on our backs and now they're standing up strong, then that's great, I just as long as it happens.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're all very familiar with the statistics. I think it's something to the effect of 80% of pro athletes go broke, within 3 years
Oh, yeah.
after they're out of the major leagues. So what financial advice would you give to young athletes today, especially female athletes, starting out their careers in their sports, so they have that long term stability even after their professional sports career is over?
Please, please, please save. Save, because it's so easy to go out there, because oh my gosh, there's so many things you wanna buy. I wanna buy this, I have a subscription to that. Oh my, those shoes are awesome. Look at that, that dress. Look at those, whatever it is. But please budget, you know, and Warren Buffett will tell you the same thing. Live under your means and put that money away, because time is wonderful for you. So you have the ability to compound that interest. And so if you could save, these thousands of dollars, $20,000 and put that away, that's just going to do nothing but compound as you go from a 20-year-old to a 60-year-old, and you'll be a millionaire and you won't have to worry about it. But if you go paycheck to paycheck because you have the money, and when you have it, you usually spend it, then this is the years that you have this earning power, and make it work for you.
So hold that thought, please, Vicki. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to Living Not So Fabulously. If you're just joining us, we're talking to former WNBA star and coach and current financial advisor, Vicki Hall.
Hi there.
So, Vicki,
so great.
So, Vicki, I want to go back a little bit to the beginning here, when you talked about when your father passed away and your mother was sold a couple of annuities. I want to revisit that again. When that moment happened, when your father passed unexpectedly, you were young, your mother obviously wasn't prepared for it. What did that moment feel like? And then when you realized what your mother was sold, what did that feel like?
Mm. It can still bring tears to my eyes. It felt like somebody just kicked me right in the stomach, and it was our whole family, because I had an older brother who was going to graduate school. I was going off to college, and my mom now was going to be an empty nester. But this happened, and talk about angry. I was very angry. And so I guess that really inspired me to learn about money. So if I know what I'm doing, then I don't have to trust somebody to tell me something. Because remember back then, you didn't really, because we're talking about the 80s, right? We didn't have Google, or a cell phone, believe it or not. And so you couldn't really just Google it and kind of check what someone's saying. You had to go to a lot of different people and then try to figure out who you're going to believe.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious, how then do you think that experience with your father and your mother and the annuities, how did that shape your perspective of financial independence, and how that maybe infuses the work that you're doing today?
Oh, it completely shaped it. And my mom was wonderful. I'm so fortunate that I had her have her as my mom. Because she taught me what Warren Buffett says, and that's pay yourself first. And how do you pay yourself first? It's not really going out and buying something. It's actually investing in you. And that's in your retirement, in the betterment of yourself. And that's like, getting certified, or your education, or different things like that. And, it's paid dividends for me.
Definitely.
So,
And John and I like to say, when it comes to paying yourself first, it's pay your future self first, pay your past self second by your bills and the things you already have said you have already purchased, and then pay your present self third, because we oftentimes do it in the exact opposite order. We pay our present self, then we pay our bills, and if there's money left over, we'll pay the future self.
right, absolutely. And it's really, you got to change your way of thinking. It's so hard too, because now we have it's people get DoorDash all the time. They're whatever, the quick pleasure is what we're after in these younger generations, and even even my generation. It's whatever's easy is what we're looking for. And I don't think very many people that I know have been very successful on the easy path. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
sometimes we got to make some sacrifices.
Yeah, one of the things I appreciate what you're saying, and I think one of the things that you have said is you try to always save at least 10% of what you make. And how do you think that we can do that today in a world where, how do we make it easier to do stuff like that in a world today where we do follow or hit the easy button for almost everything in life, but then it costs us more, or we're maybe in that lower income trap and we feel compelled to treat ourselves from time to time?
Well, I do think you should treat yourself at times, and it depends on what, but your treat can be, going to Dairy Queen and getting an ice cream versus buying a
Oh,
thousand
really?
dollar bag.
We're going to Dairy Queen after this.
right? um, but so I think keeping that in perspective first and foremost. Second, I think one of the biggest things is just have the money taken out from your paycheck. Like you can automatically get it distributed into a brokerage or a retirement account. And please understand what the difference between a Roth and a regular retirement account is. Please do that. I don't know if we have time for that, but if you just naturally take it away, if you don't see it, then you don't spend it and you don't feel it as bad. But if I see that, oh my gosh, I'm making $4,000 a month, woo, but if I've just taken it out and now it's 3,000, oh, okay, well, maybe I can't afford that, those new vans or whatever, right?
Right.
Well, while we have you, really quickly, what is your elevator pitch for the difference between a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA?
Okay, well, so a Roth IRA, so a traditional IRA is you're gonna get something back right away. So basically, you get a tax break. All right. So if I make $50,000 and I put 7,000 into my IRA, then I'm gonna get taxed on that $43,000 versus 50. Right? Okay. So, but as that money grows and goes on, and when I get older and I have to take that money out, it's going to be taxed at income because it's never been taxed, and I'm all the capital gains and everything else, so that all that's taxed at income. If I have a Roth and I have $50,000 and I put $7,000 into my Roth, I'm paying the income tax on $50,000 that year. But later on, as that grows, so that 7,000 now has grown to 200,000, and I'm 70 years old, that's tax free. So no income tax that you're paying and no capital gains. It's huge.
I love that. So would you, in your experience, professional opinion, is one better than the other, or does it maybe make sense for some people to try to have a combination of both?
Well, I think a combination of both can work very well. I do there also is for the Roth, there are limits. Like if you're a very high earner, single earner, I think is what last year was 146,000. And as a couple it was like 256. You cannot contribute to a Roth, so please understand that. But you still can look in your 401ks because most of them now give you that Roth option. But I think a combination would be not a bad idea. But I would really go more towards the Roth. I think it all depends on what tax bracket you're in and if you're near those edges to move up or not.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you. So there's one final question that we have, and we ask this of all of our guests. Thinking about your personal experience, maybe your business experience, what is one piece of financial advice you would give to folks in the LGBT community?
Wow. Oh, there's so many. Um, you know, I think one of the biggest, well, there's two. One, if you're gonna go and get an education, understand what kind of salary that degree is gonna get you. So don't take out a huge loan, okay, a $70,000 loan that's gonna just keep growing and growing and growing, and all you're gonna make that you're gonna get capped out at $50,000 or $60,000 because you're gonna be paying that loan off until you're 100. Okay,
Hmm.
so please look at that. And the other thing that is so important, I think, is just having one, pay yourself first. See, I'm giving you three, sorry. Pay yourself first, and then have an emergency savings account.
Mm,
Okay, because you never
absolutely.
know what's gonna happen. There's always the what if day, where my car broke down or, in the LGBTQ community, unfortunately, a lot of us have gone through situations, maybe you got kicked out of the house. Maybe you got fired because somebody found out you were LGBTQ, and so you have to have this cushion to help you get through a month or two or three while you're finding another job.
Awesome.
That happened to me. Unfortunately, I mean, as being a coach, you'd think in women, oh, they're all lesbians, which is not true. I mean, there are a lot of them that are. So I don't want to speak for everybody, but you couldn't really talk about it. you couldn't really talk about it. And so, you always had to be careful about what you did and if you'd get a job or not. Um, I don't know if they would actually say that, but it definitely was a part of one situation that I was in, for sure,
Mm.
Interesting.
because I lived that lifestyle. And also when I was in college and I was a coach, being LGBTQ, it's contagious, right? So, you had to be careful not to tell people because, oh my gosh, you're gonna give it to their kid. Right?
Right.
So, those are real things. We laugh, but, it's real, and it was
Mhm.
tough,
It
and that's
definitely
why
is.
I'm so happy now because I'm in the financial industry, and I don't have to worry about that. Like, I can be who I am. I have a wife, I have a home, and I have my flag. I never had an LGBTQ flag, now I do. It's fabulous.
Nice.
So I'm curious from your perspective now, how's that? I mean, having gone through all that to now this point where you can be completely out and open and have your flag hanging on your front porch. How does that feel?
So freeing. It's so freeing, and I I remember I was a head coach at one point, in college, and, one time my wife took my hand and said, "Hey, babe," and I was like, "Don't do that," because we
Mm.
were out in public. And, now we are who we are, and so I don't have to pretend that I'm somebody that I'm not, and it's just so freeing.
Yes.
Mm.
It's wonderful.
That's a great note to end on. Thank you, Vicki Hall, for joining us. It's a pleasure having you.
Well, it's a pleasure being here. Thank you so much, and I hope that somebody got something from these little tips.
Love that interview, and a big shout out to our friend Zena Kumak for making the introduction. I particularly loved Vicky's heartfelt story at the end there. I think a big takeaway for all of us is to remember that even if we're stars of the WNBA today, budget, save, and invest because we never know how long that gravy train is going to last.
Yes, whether we're a florist, a nurse, or a celebrity, save, and invest. As Vicky shared, the duration of time that you save and invest is one of the best indicators of your long-term financial success.
Thank you to our listeners and viewers for joining in. If you like what you see, please scan the QR code to follow Yahoo Finance Podcast for more videos and expert insights. Because when you do, you're sinking 3 pointers for your financial security.
Oh my goodness, look at you, a sports joke.
And until next time,
Stay fabulous.
This content was not intended to be financial advice and should not be used as a substitute for professional financial services.